Hey, welcome to Mortgages 101. In this lesson, we are going to set the stage for the rest of the lessons in this module. We're going to talk about a couple of key principles that we'll refer back to in the following lessons. For example, we're going to talk about two ways that we consider your house to be paid off. We're also going to talk about two ways to pay off your house. And of course, we're going to use your personal economic model, and we've pulled out all of the tanks for this example. So just as a review, remember your income comes over here into your lifetime capital potential, and then you have to pump some money up into your investments or your safe tank for future expenses, possibly retirement when you no longer have your income. And of course, now we have our borrowed funds tank and we have our house tank over here that we're going to be using and looking at for this particular lesson. So let's zoom in to these two tanks here, the borrowed funds and the house. And then of course, we're also going to reference this savings tank in this one. So first of all, I want to talk about the two ways to actually pay for your house. Number one is finance with a mortgage. Pretty standard. You're probably very familiar with this option. But the way that it works is you actually earn income, you pump it up into your safe tank for a down payment. Almost all houses nowadays need some sort of a down payment, even if you're going to use a mortgage. In some cases, you may be able to get a mortgage without a down payment, but for the most part, you're going to need to have some savings in this safe tank, and the key here is going to be liquidity and access to the money, right? Because we're going to need to use that money to make a down payment on our house. So step two is, of course, you're going to go out shopping for that house. That's the exciting part. Find the house that you fall in love with, that you want to buy. All right, so that's step two. Then you're going to actually drain this account, this safe tank, to actually make your down payment on the house. And then you're going to get a mortgage for the remaining balance of that house, right? So these are going to be borrowed funds, money that you're going to be borrowing, but the key here is this word collateral. We've used this word a lot in this course, but the collateral here is the key because your house is being used as collateral to secure that loan. I joked in one of the previous lessons that we don't consider this to be debt because if you don't pay your mortgage payment, they just take your house. Of course, that's not the goal. We don't want you to be without a house. But the idea is that your house is securing that loan. Okay, so then the second way to actually pay for your house is what we would call self-finance. You could also refer back to the lesson in Module 1 where we talk about Finance 101. You can either borrow the money or you can pay cash, right? So in this particular case, you're going to be earning income. You're going to be saving money into this safe tank, which you're eventually going to have enough money to pay for your house. Now, in this particular example, you may not save for the next 30 years for your house, but maybe you're in the latter part of your years to where you're going to sell a house and then downsize. Maybe you're in California or the East Coast and you feel like you need to sell to be able to downsize and save some money in retirement. So now you sell your house for a lot of money, you have this big chunk of cash. Do you pay cash for your next house? Well, whatever the case may be, you have the money in this safe tank. So now in this particular example, you're going to find that house that you want to buy, right? Then you're going to take that money out of your safe tank. You're going to drain that account, therefore interrupting the compound interest to actually pay for the house. So in this particular case, you're not financing the house through a typical lending institution and you're not getting an actual mortgage, but you are self-financing the house by giving up the opportunity cost on what that money could have earned. Now, a lot of people are only familiar with the bank, and so their bank is paying them less than 1%, so they figure, why take out a mortgage at 4% when I'm only earning 0.5% on my savings account? But remember, we're going to be talking in the future modules and other lessons about other options in this safe tank. What if you could earn 7 or 8% on safe money that you have access to? So way better than a bank, still safe, but you have access to it. So if your money over here is earning 6 to 8%, let's say, and you could borrow the money to pay for your house at a lower rate, that's something to consider. Okay, so there are 4 things to consider when it comes to paying off your house. Number 1, if the savings account and the mortgage rate are both the same interest rate. In other words, if you could be earning 5% in your safe account and it costs you 5% to borrow the money on a mortgage, the cost to pay off your house would be the same. You're either going to pay interest at 5% or you're going to give up the ability to earn interest at 5% in your safe account, right? The second thing to consider, there are two ways to have a house actually paid off. Now remember, if you have this much money in your savings account and you owe this much money on a mortgage, all it takes is transferring the money from here to here and the mortgage is paid off. So once you have enough money in your safe account, your house is paid for. You may have a mortgage, but your house is paid for. Because if this is earning, let's say 7%, and it's costing you 4% on a mortgage, it may be beneficial to keep that mortgage because you also get some tax deductions for that mortgage interest, right? And it may be better to keep that savings account growing. And then the third thing to consider is that a mortgage allows you to maintain control of your money. This is all yours, easy to get to, right? Without having to qualify for it. This here, this mortgage and any sort of equity that you've created in your house, you actually have to qualify for that. If you remember from my webinar, I talked about my experience of losing my house and all of that equity that we had in there that we couldn't get to. And I've said it before, if I could go and do everything all over again, I would rather have all of my money in an account that I have access to and control of, no matter what interest it's earning. So there are some emotional decisions involved in this as well. All right, now in our next lesson, we're really going to dive into the details of mortgages and paying off a house, the fastest way to pay off a house, whether it's a 15 or a 30, it might surprise you. And we're also going to talk about how to create more of a secure situation and position. And remember, your house and how you pay for your house is one of the biggest holes in your bucket. So let's dive into the next lesson and find out how to plug this hole.